We are awakening together. This is our weekly gathering we hold online. For more information, visit our website, awakening-together.org. We'd love to see you there.
All right, beautiful. Thank you, Dawn. And I hope everyone can hear me. It's really great to see all of you. All right, welcome to our Sunday morning here in Awakening Together, online, collectively, everywhere, tuning in to inspire and motivate wherever you are on the spiritual path. I'm honored to be of service and to be in a position to put myself in form where universal wisdom can be explored and understood and known and realized and forgotten and realized again. So let's take this welcoming moment to settle in and greet each other's presence. I'm coming in from Provincetown, Cape Cod in Massachusetts. So, all right, it's nice to see everybody again. So here at Awakening Together, we have a purpose, which is that we are an assembly of equals, joined in common purpose, which is awakening to one true self, with an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols. We seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. And we also have 5 core values, and in honor of the service and a homily, I pick one that is symmetrical to the message, if that's how I went. So today I picked core value number 1, and that is, we trust everyone is led by unique inner guidance to one experience called awakening, which is realization of one true self. We live this value by supporting one another on different paths of awakening. And we also have some announcements here. The first announcement is that a new, consistent, gentle healing year 1 group will begin tomorrow night, January 27th, and meet each Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for 2 hours. It ends at 10 p.m. And in Mountain Time, that's 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the Awakening Together Sanctuary. The group will be facilitated by Reverend Shauna Summers. The Gentle Healing Curriculum guides committed students to make consistent, gentle progress toward genuine peace, love, and joy. Regina created the Gentle Healing Curriculum so that others could benefit from the practices and insights that led to her own spiritual growth. Year 1 is based on A Course in Miracles workbook for students and other non-dual teachings. This group will meet weekly and will be committed to specific assignments and practices between group meetings. You do not need to register for this group. All you have to do is come. If you are already in a Gentle Healing group and feel that you have benefited from your participation, please consider inviting others to participate by beginning with this new year 1 group. Did you know that Wednesdays are one of our main programming days here at Awakening Together? On Wednesdays, our presenters include Meg Reinhart and Billy Santiris, Carla Mayle, Anne Blanchard, Regina Dawn Akers, Jacqueline Eckert, Cheryl Kaplan, George Maddox, Hank Hamilton, Dawn Fernandez, Joanne Schneider, Nancy Sullivan and Stephen Mead, and Ron Rates. We are open Wednesdays from noon until 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, with a short break between 4 and 5:30. For more details, check out the Awakening Together schedule by looking under Online Sanctuary on our main menu bar and clicking on Sanctuary Program Schedule. Please consider joining us on Wednesdays and see what you've been missing. And the fourth announcement is that registration is now open for one of our most popular retreats, our self-inquiry retreat. This retreat will be held at the Retreat House in La Vida, February 17th to the 21st. This retreat is based on the teaching of Indian sage Ramana Maharshi. At this retreat, you will learn the subtleties of self-inquiry by practicing several forms of self-inquiry, including guided self-inquiry, meditative self-inquiry, self-inquiry with a partner, and journaling. The purpose of this retreat is to help you make advances in the process of self-inquiry in a very short time, so that when you go home from the retreat, you'll be able to use self-inquiry more effectively to abide in the true self and detach from the false self. This retreat is led by Regina Dawn Akers. For more information, please visit our website and look on our main menu bar under Retreats and Classes, then Retreats at the Retreat House. All right, so that covers the announcements for now. And now you could do a whole homily on that song, couldn't I? All right, let's center in and pray. Father of my heart, light of my heart, let us create an invitation, an invocation to set intention for all wandering minds to experience that which is the same within the many, many, many things we perceive. Let us carve out this moment in time and space to gather the loose wires of our attention and hand them over to now. Let us practice the art of listening. Let us throw away our tired ears and listen to before we knew we could hear. Let's today's message be the result of honesty and integrity to expose the invisible with our limited language, to create a holy encounter, and let these teachings and recent observations be of use to seekers who desire to dissolve the barriers between known and unknown. Let this message inspire the linear eye who's looking toward the non-linear reality eye prior to thought excelling toward enlightenment. Let this message be a universal experience of a personal event. Use me. Take myself emptying Megan everything she can't remember, and her love for consciousness to serve the purpose of waking up the ego mind from itself, to travel through all realms of knowing and not knowing, the crucifying, the searching, the believing, the rebirthing, the seeing, the unseeing, the undeceived, the clarity, the shifts, the witnessing, to beyonder, to wisdom, to transcend, to merge, and to wake with that which is constant, unchanging, cosmic, eternal awareness, joy. Let today be love. Love. Love for not being satisfied with anything except the quest toward your own heart. And let it be that wherever you are today, it is here. Amen. And now I'm going to hand over the mic to Kate. Today's topic is it's a line directly taken from this reading where it says there are no stages or degrees to realization. There are only stages of spiritual practice, and it's a passage from No Mind, I Am the Self, and it's in a section called Sadhana. And sadhana is spiritual practice, and it literally means a means of accomplishing something. So the practice means whatever the practice is looking at or attempting. And No Mind, I Am the Self is the life and teachings of Ramana Maharshi's one of his direct disciples, Sri Lakshamana Swamy, and his adopted daughter and successor, Sri Mathru Sarada. So they both realized self without the return of the dualistic thinking system. So this is a passage from that book. And No Mind, I Am the Self. And Kate, the mic is all yours.
Thank you. Question: what are the different stages or levels of the mind that one passes through before realizing the self? Swami: mind is only thoughts. The more easily you can be without thoughts, the nearer you are to a direct experience of the self. To make the mind die, you must deprive it of thoughts. The effortless, thought-free state is the highest level of practice. There are no stages or degrees of realization. There are only stages of spiritual practice. The final stage of sadhana is this effortless, thought-free state. If this state can be maintained, then the I will sink into the self and it will experience the bliss of the self. This is not realization, for there still is an I which is experiencing the bliss of the self. These experiences are only temporary. The I will continue to reassert itself until the moment of realization. Realization can only happen in this effortless, thought-free state, for it is only in this state that the self can destroy the I thought. The I thought, which is the mind, must die completely before self-realization occurs. Question: how is one to make the mind die? Swami: the mind can never eliminate itself without the grace of the self. The mind is afraid of its own death. It will not do anything to endanger its own existence. It is like a thief who poses as a policeman in order to catch himself. The thief will only pretend to catch himself because ultimately he wants to escape. Similarly with the mind will engage in sadhana, thinking that it wants to destroy itself. But as soon as the mind starts to sink into the heart, a great fear arises, which prevents the mind from completely subsiding. This fear is part of the mind's self-defense mechanism, and you will never overcome it by effort alone. It is because of this that you need the grace of the Guru. When you concentrate on the name and form of the Guru, or try to be without thoughts, the grace of the Guru calms the mind and helps it to overcome the fear which would otherwise prevent it from completely subsiding. Question: why is it necessary for the mind to die? Swami: the mind must die. There is no other way to realize self. Some people say that complete equanimity of mind is self-realization, but this is not true. This is only a stage one passes through on the way to self-realization. Other people say that seeing the self of God everywhere is self-realization, but this is not true either. To see the self everywhere, there must be an I who sees, and while that I exists, the mind will also exist. The Jnani, which is sage, does not see anything because the seeing entity in him has died. In the self, there is no seeing, only being. When the mind still exists, one can reach a stage where one can see the whole world as a manifestation of the self. But when the mind dies, there is no one who sees and no world to be seen. If you have a mind, then the earth, the sky, and the stars will exist and you will be able to see them. When the mind dies, there will be no earth, no sky, no stars, and no world. The world of objects, names, and forms is only the mind. And when the mind dies, the world dies with it. Only the self remains. Seeing everything as the self gives the impression that the self is equally distributed everywhere. This is also an idea in the mind. When the mind finally dies, you realize that there is no distribution and no everywhere.
Thank you so much, Kate. It was so nice hearing it from you. It almost sets up a brand new discussion because we're so present with it. So welcome to getting really direct and intense. This is I have to share where it's all at, and I'm overwhelmed in the most still way to be sharing it all. First, that song, Across the Universe, and hilariously enough, Beatles, Liverpool, and Kate all came together without trying to do that. In that beautiful song, he's words are flowing out like endless rain into a paper cup. I mean, rain and paper, dissolve and they sliver while they pass, and there's sorrow and there's joy, and they're possessing me, but they're caressing me. And then, the chorus, it goes, Jai Guru Deva Om. And this was just an experience for John and the Beatles. They were seekers. They were artists. They were seekers because they were artists, and they were artists because they were seeking. And so they're going over to India, and they're like, Deva Guru, give me a mantra, give me what you have, and there's probably a million stories, but so one of the stories is that the guru said, well, Om, Om, And they were like, what? Like, give me a special mantra, the one that's going to wake me up and give me what you have. And their frustration of seeking and their whole experience of the Beatles, everything, it was the beginning of the end. You know, there was some kind of death and explosion of this. So the seeking, it's coming to its head. And you know, John goes back to the States and all this stuff's happening. And he has this fight with his wife, Cynthia, at the time. And just couldn't take the pressure of all of the thoughts, and wound up going and writing. And he said his experience of this song was, it was like some kind of medium and psychic, you know, was writing these meters. He said the meters in some of these lines, I couldn't even think about how to write. And he got to this moment where he thanked the guru for not giving him something for, because it all came together. And his mantra was like, thank you for not giving me something to change my world, because nothing is going to change my world, yet nothing changes the world, you know. And just, you know, this song just had a real powerful collapsing of time for me. You know, if you take any piece of anything in this world and give it to Holy Spirit, it's going to make this whole sense out of something. And that was just, you know, this is a homily of celebrating the seeking that, you know, I have to call this what it is. You know, it's like I'm on this path, this search for the thing that, when it happens, the seeker is not going to be there, right? So, you know, and when things start getting like non-physical and a little invisible, it's disorienting. So I'm going to celebrate that today and share with you. And, you know, we're holding this space together. The preparation to give service to this kind of offering was such a beautiful experience of about 40 pieces of papers floating all around my floor. Like my floor was covered in just papers and charts and scribblings, and it's and I hope I can make sense, you know, because this is like such a celebration of the strange and wondrous art of spirituality, and just to continue to emphasize the first core value, that we trust everyone is led by unique inner guidance to one experience, no matter what song it's singing, you know, called awakening, which is realization of the one true self. And we support one another. You know, this is the art of dying before you die to truly live. This act of taking the backward step and falling upward, and I loose my grip from all the world I see. You know, to bust the I am decision maker. The call to end like human suffering, because it is within the mind. And, you know, the decision after decision after decision to walk yourself home and talk yourself out of yet one more belief that isn't true. You know, God, where are you? How did I forget you? To say yes, I will play this game of ending my belief in guilt and death, and I'm going to love dying. I mean, I thought this was just believing in God. How did it become all of this? You know, 5 years of journaling and begging a God that now no longer exists to save me from myself, because, you know, I thought I couldn't stop thinking. And I kept asking, stop thinking. And now that I know how to not think, oh my God, I sent you on a one-way flight into the absolute. And, you know, in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, let him who seeks continues seeking until he finds. When he finds, he will become troubled. When he becomes troubled, he will become astonished, and he will rule over the all. And you know, I don't even know how to miss the need to talk to God right now. You know, it's just it's empty. And there's so many empties. This surrender is, you know, and this is bringing the two together. It's bringing all of the dreamlike suffering and seeing an unaffected place in all of that. There's an unaffected place in all of my dreams. And you know, this surrender is no more empty than the empty bottles. The empty bottles that I used to drink to find you in, God, you know, and the periods of my empty stomach where I used to starve to find you, God, and the highs that I thought were elevated levels of consciousness where I didn't have to be me anymore. It was just for you, God, which is still me. And, you know, I was always looking for you. So what? Now you're holding up both where I am and was, and now it's like, oh man, they didn't happen. How does any of this really make sense? You know, that suffering is just an idea played out in a picture. You know, I loved who I am when I was scared, lost, and lonely, and I loved who I am, bringing my ego to its death, and I can't make them different anymore. So there is a, you know, and there's this residue where you once were, and I stand in some kind of new astonishment that nothing existed the way I thought it did, and I don't have words for it yet, but yet I have a trillion words. And so like the search is having me, and it's not over, but there's just no need for a yellow brick road right now. You know, when you are able to fashion an I to replace an I, and form a hand in place of a hand, or a foot for a foot, making one image supersede another, then you will enter in. Once your purified image of yourself and self becomes profoundly fused with prior to the image maker, then the gap or the dissonance starts to disappear in a significant and another worldly kind of way. I'm feeling this pull right now to you know, this is my third homily here, and they are all 10 weeks apart. And right before my first homily, which was in the summer of last year, I deliberately intensified my desire for liberation, and I did that by really chiseling in on Michael Langford's work and taking what I needed when I needed something to comfort my search, but I was really on a quest to intensify it. And my first homily, you know, all of these homilies are teachings for myself with you, you know, and the encounter that we create in this moment is powerful, because the result after each one was that the instructions were having me. So my first homily was like, you know, and then George last week had his topic last week about death, and I was like, oh, thank you, God, George, you know, like, because my first homily was this celebration of like, of death, you know, like the mind is not going to be able to wrap around this, guys, but that's what we're training it for, you know. And it was this like Lazarus, and like, well, you know, after Jesus brought Lazarus back up from the dead, how did he really feel about being back in the world? Because like, I know it's not fun because my search of what life gave me were moments of death and a total fascination with death, because I knew that I was searching for something permanent now, and there was no release. So I was searching for death in the rajastic path, the negative, the nightmare, you know. But we come to today, and that death is winding up being the same darn thing. It's just too beautiful. It just wants to sit with me, really. It wants me more silent than talking about it than ever before. So that really had me. And then the you know, the last homily of creating a dream scenario that looked like my idea of awareness and the absolute, and creating every thought that I could possibly come up with. If it couldn't be silent, it had to look non-dual, you know, and I just made it happen, you know, the concentration. So this is like a 10-week aftermath of that teaching, you know. So now it's like, and I'll probably talk maybe more about that later, about the process of what I did during that homily and the 10 weeks after. And but now it's like, you know, right now I have this conscious availability, but no conditions ruling any thoughts, and no thoughts of thoughts. Like the perseverance to do this until that's not needed. It's like a weird sadness that has no misery. You know, it's because we are setting ourselves up for some kind of funeral of ourselves that's ridiculously beautiful, but also weird. So I need a breath. So to go through this, God, when will I stop producing images that I am? Like, don't you know that I want that? And, or like, I am, please take me over, you know, doing whatever spiritual practice it takes to mature it, to merge with self, and exhausting quotes into the translator I called Holy Spirit, you know, taking them, take it, you know, exhausting the one who tries, exhausting the one who's homesick, you know, depriving the seeker of the practices so it stops needing something to get something. It's so subtle. Exhausting every call your mind tries to tell you. You have to forcibly drag your wandering attention back to the self each time it shows an interest in going anywhere else. Starving the senses, starving the thoughts to activate the cells from an unfamiliar, non-physical familiarity. You know, the art of actualizing the child of the barren woman is your mind. And the spiritual work is your orphan. You know, the negotiation of all negation to train your mind to not want itself is a death within itself. You know, and the art of trusting the masters, to hold space and let go at the same time, you know. Do not stand by my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep, you know. You know, so this is you know, it does feel like a moment to celebrate the need and no need. And the two become one, the gapless path of a gap. And the invisible chain on the elephant, the levels, the stages, the phases, the ahas, the purification, the renunciation, the equanimity of a sound mind, the peace, the pain, the tears, the defeat, the dark night of the soul, the desperation, the every and all experience you give yourself to have. Bite the apple, you didn't do anything wrong. It's just, it's so good when you penetrate the bubble beyond the being consciousness and allow yourself to have an intuitive transparency of all that is. You know, and this reading today was a way for me to verbalize and give permission to the strange realms of lucidity that wants no levels. You know, it wants no levels, and it starts to occur after awareness stops having interest or need for the dream world. And this delivery of something so invisible to me is really the only confusion I'm experiencing. You know, if you would have asked me 3 weeks ago to do this right now, part of my seeking has resulted in making charts and journals of what the trajectory and the traveling looks like of when you're leaving your dense mind and going out, right? And so I became, from the last homily, one of the, you know, the true aspirations was, let me become an expert master observer of everything in my mind so I can let it go. Just let me see it all, you know. And it went from, and I think I would have been able to talk about every level as if I lived in each one, because I was. And but something's changed, and it's by no strange mistake that, you know, I'll just sidebar the story. You know, when Regina sends an email and asking the ministers, you know, well, what dates wouldn't work for you? What dates work for you during this period where you can give service? And I think I said, like, anything is fine except the first 3 weeks in January. And here we are. So, you know, like, so I weaved in and out and through all these different phases of mind, you know, a meditative mind, a contemplative mind, an inspired mind, an intellectual mind, a get lost mind, a mindful mind, an aware mind. And I observed that in all states of mind, I arose. And there was this space where I didn't need to do anything with that arising, because there was an awareness behind me that was available to rest in. And that took me from myself as thinker, because I stopped being aware of it. And this moved and guaranteed for my maturing observer that awareness is definitely always aware of what it's looking at. And now the muscle in my mind could completely count on itself to focus when I directed it. You know, I started the path of not wanting to die the wrong way, the body death, about 6 years ago, and I became a member of Awakening Together 4 years ago, and in that beginning there was a request, a prompt to decide on a true aspiration. What is your true north going to be? What do you carry around as your singleness of purpose? And I said, well, if there's only one thing to have, I want that. And I know that I won't want it when it comes, but that's what I want. So it was like, I want to realize true self. However, I had to make a true aspiration also for the mind. I had to make that pointy thorn that was going to pluck out the thorn. And so I've just always had these true aspirations, and they've changed along the way and matured along the way. And that's what the spiritual practice really gave me, was this beautiful pointy thorn to pluck it out and to not put it back in your skin eventually. So in the purification process, I spend most awareness concentrating. I spend most of the time, I have spent most of the time in purification while looking toward true self. However, it was the discernment in the dream and the awareness on the discernment that was definitely most important for a while. And discerning everything that binary operating system just keeps automatically producing. And then our purifying action is to let go, to dissect, to root cause, to unleash, to unravel, whatever it is. And that takes time, especially deep rooted automatic responses. This is what a path. So rarely do we have the quietude to get a break from doing that kind of work. At least for me, because the concentration needed to have no thought, it's just it needs maturity to get there. Because as soon as we come back in, there's just more crucial belief system discernment. But eventually, elevated states of a peaceful and purified mind is the result of the negation. And when the mind is quieted and the focus of awareness turns it back, even on the peaceful, happy dream, awareness can slip right back into itself because your head isn't yelling at you. So instead of being distracted by the nagging thoughts, they're quiet. You've sat-ficked your mind, and it cooperated to not own you for a minute, And then so they're quiet, and then they turn to no thoughts, and then your own mind's silence, surrender, matches the silent awareness. And then instead of awareness for the dream, you can pierce and penetrate the awareness of awareness and explore the I of the I before the I to the absolute. And this is like an admission. This is admitting for the first time that after practicing awareness, resting as itself, the I that is sitting here right now is significantly changed as a result of penetrating and holding reality for temporary periods of time. And it's changed me as I know it, and mostly because despite what's happening right now, I love more than anything that there's nothing to say. If I let those two meet right now, all I will do is cry. You know, it's just, I can't believe how easy it's. There's an ease that I've been wishing for, I guess you could say. And because, you know, the instructions are direct and deliberate, and they're really, really big in the beginning, and then they get so simple that you just, there's a laughing and there's a beautiful giggle. And I know I'm not saying anything new to all of you. You know, because, you know, you become aware of ego, you become aware of the bridge, and you become aware of the absolute. And that's it. The whole thing is you will dream, you will recognize that you dream, you will decide that you don't want to dream, you will be fooled again by the dream, you will carve paths out of the dream, you do not settle for the dream, you do not stay on the bridge, and you will be liberated. So, yeah, so I mean, having described some observations of mind, you know that the dense fixated points of view, to having miracles, to talking about how the miracles happened in the dream to take you out of it, you know, this constant, let me show you how no time existed for me and how it changed my world, yet nothing changed it, you know, to being a witness to all levels of consciousness, you know, that still have an I, and you know, that the absolute is free from, you know, but then, you know, what the absolute does is destroy the I matter. The absolute destroys the I matter. Like, we reorganize it to cooperate, and then we actually don't get rid of it. The absolute does. And you know, and I have no other way to explain that knowing except that I practiced concentration and remained as pure consciousness to be. I gathered every single thing in my mind, which is a billion trillion possibilities. And when I learned, like when I learned discernment, I said I was creating a conscious bipolar person who also felt insane at times and schizophrenic. And then I called them levels when I didn't feel like they would make me want to die improperly, you know? And then, so I took all of that and then sent them to my heart, and I demanded God. And then God took a hike. And that was incredible, you know. So the awareness, holy smokes, look at the time. So I'm going to skip so much of the poetry that just wants to keep talking about nothing. You know, because this is my own falling in love with consciousness, learning about it, observing it, becoming nothing, becoming everything, wanting to be absorbed, the transitions, the purification, and then going in and out of levels of samadhi. So the samadhi, sadhana is practice. Samadhi is when self recognizes self and the I disappears. So the question that Kate read today, what are the different stages or levels of the mind that one passes through before realizing self? And the direct answer is, if you see stages, then you're not beyond perception. But what else are we going to do except both? Yes, please. Okay, so no mind and the self continues to describe that after purification and having pierced through the veils of illusion enough, the dream state starts to disappear, and then there are 3 new stages that the consciousness starts to experience before it is self-actualized, before it dies. And those are 3 stages of samadhi in which the self recognizes self. And the first stage the first stage is called savikalpa. And it's when you have this constant effort and you're continuously holding on to an object that you're meditating on for long periods of time without distraction. But these periods end because then thoughts arise and it distracts your attention from what you were just concentrating on. So that is so common, and it's just so natural also. And so when you can reach no thought, the mind will automatically subside into the self. And it's not a true experience because the I is experiencing this bliss, but this is just part of it, So, and then that second stage of samadhi, it's called Kerala Nirvikalpa. And it's in this state where the I temporarily disappears and leaves a true experience. The experience is only temporary, and the I is liable to reappear at any time and resume normal ego consciousness. And this is what we're going in and out of, So no mind, I am the self describes it like a bucket of water which has been dropped in a well. And so under the surface, the water inside and outside the bucket form an inseparable whole. But when the rope pulls the bucket out, the bucket and the water it contains are separated from the water well. So similarly, the mind can subside and disappear into the self. But when it rises again, the sense of separation and the individual self arises along it. And this is where, literally, Nisargadatta is we're learning how to disassociate from our body, and you want me to be able to talk about that. So it's just the sense organs are ceasing to function, and you're not really capable of thought or perception or action. And this is where yogis hang out for a while, but you're not a yoni because you know that you're a yogi. Yoni is just it's been destroyed, they just say you can't call it realization because your I, but that's not important. I'm just trying to get grounded. And he even says, Swamy says in this book, Sarada, the young girl who came to him in her teens, realized herself, and she just is outside playing all the time. And he was like, people will argue with me and say she's not realized, but as far as her realization is concerned, she's at the same state that Ramana is. And so I've been fascinated with stages and phases because there's nothing else for my mind to wrap around except leaving itself or getting more thin, like paper thin realms of self, I guess. And it's exciting. So the other day in the sanctuary, in the Sargadatta, it so beautifully answers, Regina was reading. Somebody asked him, can you describe the absolute? And he's like, do you want me to cut up my sleep and make a design of it? And although, I'm not enlightened, but I'm incredibly committed to go all the way, I just laughed and laughed at my heart's ever so slight recognition of his statement. So man, this space today, it's just this space that we're creating to hold up this incredible intangibility of having large parts of my mind completely unfound, to witness the human shifts from cosmic alterations, to watch the appearance of battlefields of this mysterious duality, like being sucked back into the place that it never came from, and a child of a barren woman, it's just that, I don't have a mind that's trying to torture me today. And I romanticize torturing my mind and myself, just for a very, very long time. In my own mind, it was a very, very long time. And you know, to recognize that my search, you know, the homily that catapulted me into daydreaming, my best case scenario of the absolute, it gave me a chance to create a dream that appeared unaffected. You know, I was like, I want to be who I think I am in meditation. I want to be the unaffected person. I like, show me non-duality, because I can't, you know. And I had these amazing like flashbacks that never existed, but in them were all of these images of feelings, like when I was little, like all of these images of when I remembered being unaffected. You know, it was like I was planted in these different case scenarios of my whole life, of where I remembered yearning for God and being unaffected. And it collapsed my own time in my head, where I remembered I am throughout time in my own dream. That wasn't happening as a dream. And, you know, it's just like years of inner struggle just turned into a seemingly futile search where it led me to this like this agonizing, crushing defeat that I had to bring to my own death, and watch my own lifeless thoughts of survival just start to disappear really into oblivion. You know, a hushed silence pervading all my surroundings. And emotion itself, it slows and becomes still, you know, Rumi and these poets and the Beatles and Jackson Pollock and Picasso. I mean, they are feeling this and doing that, you know. So I just look forward to being that without the mind torturing me, so I don't cut off my own ear. You know, like, because my mind is becoming nicer, and it was never nice before. And even the happy dream that I wound up having because of that homily still had an eye that had a potential to suffer and to create darkness. And when I saw that I got everything that I wanted, like I got everything I wanted, and there was still a split, you know, what a treat. You know, what a treat to just watch my perceptual world being replaced. And it is with my like deepest gratitude that Awakening Together exists, because this the experience of somebody else waking up and then handing it away. You know, Regina created this for this purpose. And when I joined in 2016, you know, up until this point, it's been miraculous. You know, I've been a miracle junkie, and now I just want to be the miracle. So, oh man, how cool is that, huh? So I'm gonna like thank you for letting me take all of the time. I'm gonna tell you that this is member supported entirely, and we survive off of your donations. And Dawn will post a link in the room. If you're listening to this, it's awakening-together.org/donate. Please, if you feel called to donate and this helps you in any way, you know, listen to that. All right, I'll let the music go and turn it back over to you, Dawn, and the rest of the sanctuary. Thank you for being here, and just thank you.
Thank you for watching. This was our weekly gathering that we hold online. For more information, you can visit our website at awakening-together.org, or you can subscribe to our Awakening Together channel and click the bell for more notifications when we post our weekly gatherings. Thank you again for watching.